Hello and welcome back to another episode of Scrap Mechanic. We are building something a little bit more unique today. Something that isn't a car, which is kind of rare, I guess, for Scrap Mechanic. You know, kind of really encourages car building. But we're going a little bit into the future, rebuilding I guess it's kind of a famous anime, just like the last build. Because I enjoy anime so much, I figured it's a good source material for me to create kind of famous things such as this. And what we're doing is actually building a tank from Ghost in the Shell. And these tanks, they're AI tanks, and they're generally kind of bipedal, quadrupedal kind of spiral looking like things that have wheels, but they can also walk. And it was quite a challenge to kind of get this thing constructed. If you guys don't know about Ghost in the Shell standalone complex or the movie just Ghost in the Shell, it is essentially set in the distant future. I think it's about 2030, and everyone's kind of hybrid cyborgs. They can get implants. They can actually upload a neural link into a full cyborg if they wish. And it takes place in like a fictional kind of Japanese city. Section 9, kind of this government anti-terrorist organization. Everyone's kind of a cyborg kind of deal, and they basically run secret ops and basically fight bad guys. Pretty standard stuff in terms of that. Though the storytelling and character development is really good. And just the overall ways that they do tell the story is just amazing. It's just one of the animes I grew up with watching, and so, you know, I figured, hey, this is something cool to make, and so I'm making it. Something different than just a normal car. And, you know, standard building procedure here, we're just, of course, boxing out the basic shape. It's how we're starting every build in general. And then, right now, we're working on the legs, and these are probably the most complicated things that I've done in a while, beyond maybe getting the X-Wing to fly properly. And getting these legs to, one, balance correctly and then look at least relatively correctly is quite the chore. And so what we're going to have is we're going to have 4 main supporting legs, each with a tire at the very bottom. And these are going to spread out into kind of an X pattern and be kind of spider-like so that it can support its weight. A little bit of a top-heavy kind of vehicle though, so it does drive some problems a little later on with that. But here, you know, each leg has 10 bearings. Actually, no, each leg has 5 bearings in it, and plus 2 more just for the steering. So we need 2 controllers just to make the legs go in the position that they need to be in, and to give us the basic shape and the basic kind of stance of one of these AI robots. I believe they're called Tachikoma or something like that. I don't remember quite off the top of my head, and I'm not super fluent in Japanese, so I might have butchered it anyways. So yeah, so these AI tanks, they are pretty cool. They can even carry and secure a VIP if needed. So they kind of have a back pod that they can keep someone safe in. That's why they're kind of still tanks, in my opinion, because people can still get inside of them. But they're mainly AI driven, and they have their own personalities, and they're pretty funny. They're kind of almost comic relief in a sense, on their own way. The front end is very interesting, very angular in shape, and so we're trying to capture that as much as possible. And then as you go back, it kind of becomes just a normal polygon kind of shape. And then the back kind of bucket, and I call it kind of a bucket because it's just where a person would sit, or they would store things in them, I guess. And so that's why the seat's all the way in the back like that. Pretty standard kind of shapes along the sides that isn't just the front end or the legs. You know, we're just trying to do some layering. And then also once we get the leg shapes done, I need to beef up and make the legs look like they could actually hold some weight, make them look a little bit more mechanical, make them look like, you know, they're load-bearing arms rather than just these little wooden spindles with tires on them. And so that's what we're doing here, just adding some plates onto them in the general shape that we want. And then also we're going to have 2 little front arms, and they can actually pick up things using those and interact. And then also it'll have, it's supposed to have, I guess, a little bit of a minigun in the front nose section. We don't have guns in this game, so it's not like I'm going to be able to add weaponry just yet. Maybe, hopefully, when survival mode comes out, that'll be maybe something they do. I don't know the full roadmap for this game, so it's a little bit different. Again, just adding more armor plating. This at this point, most of our time was just getting the thing to sit right and have the leg placement right. I still think it's probably too high off the ground, but there's really not much I can do about that per se, without making the legs look just too short and stubby to be a good representation of what the thing would look like. Adding a little bit of a radio in the top middle there just to give us a nice antenna for the thing, and then some other miscellaneous items to give more kind of utility aspects to it. Pretty standard flat smooth armor elsewhere though, because it is futuristic. They're not going to have a lot of exposed wiring or anything like that, though later on we do add some spotlights in the back area just so that, you know, there's something interesting up there. The arms, they actually have sensors on them, just so if you walk in front of it, it kind of makes a chirping noise at you, which I think is pretty cool and it sounds pretty nice. And you know, those would be actually like grabbing arms to either side of them. A little bit of detail on the other side, you know, just some pipings and stuff. The main issue though that we're going to run into with this thing, since it's so top heavy and kind of back heavy, when we accelerate, we're going to do a little wheelie, and that's a little annoying. So you can't accelerate full speed from the get-go. You kind of have to warm yourself up to it, and then also when you're going up a slope, you risk kind of tipping over. So at some point, what I want to do is even make the back legs articulate maybe back a little bit more by pressing a button, and that might give us some more rear stability. But that's something we're gonna have to test maybe at a later date, as that's not something I was able to accomplish in this build today. But yeah, it's starting to take shape. You can actually see kind of the general profile at this point. Most of the armor plating is on, and just doing some test driving to make sure it handles at least somewhat how I think it should. And then at this point, I think we're making some minor changes to the wheels and trying to get the angle right. I think we raised up the back wheels a little bit so it kind of leans forward when it stops. And then we're going to throw in a back door, wire that up to make it open and close. And then there's a simple paint job. It's going to be mainly dark blue with black undertones on like the limbs and the underside, followed by some gray areas to highlight maybe some armor pieces. And then we're actually going to use a lighter blue just to bring in some highlight areas so it looks like the upper section is catching a little bit more light than the lower section, and it provides a really nice effect, in my opinion, for painting. You know, you have this break between the upper and lower section, and so that creates a nice kind of visual interest for your eye. Kind of wish there was a way to do a broad paint stroke in the game, kind of like Space Engineers in the sense, but beyond that, in my opinion, this is such a better painting system than Space Engineer has. You know, it really just paints what you're looking at. You're not going to misclick or not be able to paint items that are behind another block just because you can't really click on it for some arbitrary reason or anything like that. So yeah, 2 tones of blue, 1 tone of gray, and 1 tone of black, and you pretty much have one of these AI tanks. So that's pretty much going to do us for the speed build, and then we're going to cut to, I guess, current me, so you guys can see how it drives in real time, and you guys get to see maybe a little bit more of a detailed look without seeing all this jarring imagery the whole time. So I'll see you guys here in a second. So here we are, looking at the finished Tachikoma, and it is pretty cool. As I said earlier, I just wish I could get it a little bit lower to the ground, so it's looking like it's really hugging it. Couldn't really quite do orbs because the thing is actually using like a half dome viewport to actually see and gather information with cameras. Can't really do that in this game. No real dome-like structure that I could put on it. But overall, I think it has the general profile, and at least it looks recognizable if you guys know the series. So I think I at least accomplished that, and which is pretty cool. And have a seat if that's something you want to do. So yeah, it has its two grabbing arms. This centerpiece would be a Gatling gun, and then of course it would have little like side turrets on it. But there's really nothing I can do to represent that, at least on this scale. We have our tires to get around. Now they could also walk as well, but this one does not have that functionality. The back cabin area to store one passenger and keep them safe from harm. And yeah, I just like it. You know, it's a really cool build. So we're gonna go ahead and hop into the seat, which just opens up right there and then closes. And all four wheels turn, which is pretty nice. You have a kind of a nice turning radius because of that. Though if you turn slower, you'll definitely turn a little bit quicker. There is Lupin III's Fiat 500 over there that we built last time. And so we have our Tachikoma over here. And, you know, it's not the fastest thing in the world. If I made it much faster, it'd probably be popping wheelies like a motherfucker. So decided not to do that and just have this thing to put around in. I think it behaves pretty cool. I like the fact that it's kind of drifty on the turns. It kind of gives it a little bit of a personality, in my opinion. And I think if I stop, you know, I can kind of wiggle it around, make it look like it's at least waving its arms. I could hook up the arms with some buttons and make them, I guess, controllable a little bit, but that's not something that's done right now. The nice thing is, though, because I do have that door on the back, if we do a little bit too quick of an acceleration, I can right myself, which is pretty handy. But yeah, it performs fairly well, as I said, and I hope you guys enjoyed this speed build of Ghost in the Shell. Hopefully, you know, I can get some cool suggestions from you guys if you have something popular and cool to make. That's definitely something I'll be interested in doing. I still want to make Spike's ship, the Swordfish 2. I think that'll be pretty cool to do as well. And if you guys enjoyed the content, feel free to subscribe if you're new. Go ahead and hit that like button so you know you guys enjoy this kind of stuff. And until next time, I'll see you guys in some more Scrap Mechanic.